Synchronicity University has some incredible programs starting this September, right around the corner, with just 3 weeks left to choose your tuition rate as low as just $5 a class, to learn about planetary returns from me, more on health astrology from a world leader, Cameron Allen, and these incredible speakers as part of September Speaker Series, focusing on home and foundations and getting them right. Learn more and sign up now at synchronicityuniversity.com. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of August 11, 2024. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. Boy, is this a very special time, and it truly is so special. This week, we have one of the most important celestial events of the year that begins now. And this is the divine meeting of Mars and Jupiter in the sign of Gemini. Now, usually about once every 2 years or so, we'll get Mars meeting Jupiter in the sky, and it's always in a different sign. And think about these core archetypes here for a moment. Mars is adrenaline. It's like steroids, and whatever it is that Mars visits, especially by conjunction, it's like it brings that much more a shot of adrenaline, impulsivity, necessity, and it brings a sense of urgency into the mix. Our reactions can be especially strong or heightened at a time when strong Mars energy is at play. And think about Jupiter. Jupiter expands whatever it is that it meets and it touches in the sky. It makes it bigger. The experience, the energy, the elations, but also the potentials for the flip side to feel that much bigger are also possible. Jupiter can be optimistic for sure, but sometimes overly optimistic. And that means that we may not be recognizing where it is that perhaps a breath could go a really long way. Some patience can go a really long way. And all of this playing out in the sign of Gemini that has to do with perception and communication. Mercury is retrograde right now. And in fact, it is going to be on the same day that Mercury is going to retrograde into the sign of Leo after being in its home sign retrograde since last week, the sign of Virgo, its other home sign besides Gemini. And that means that we are going to have Mercury at what's called anaretic degrees. It means that we've got Mercury there at the very beginning, 0 degrees of the sign of Virgo, but then 29 degrees under this sky in the sign of Leo. And that brings with it, on the one hand, not knowing necessarily what to do with its energy. That's what happens at 0 degrees, trying to figure out where that energy is going to go, how to express it, how to use it. And then having this really concentrated sense of self-importance and even ego as well, which is part of the flip side of the energy of Leo. The higher vibration of Leo, of course, is healthy self-love, seeing something within you that is worthy of shining and being seen, and knowing that because you know yourself to be special, we can also say that all of us are special. There's a humility involved in that brings with it a healthy sense of being able to bring your best to any given moment. In its most highest vibration, the energy of Leo invites us to consider where it is that we are ourselves, expressions of divine light and divine energy. The ruling luminary of Leo, after all, is the sun, one of the very first gods humanity ever recognized and documented. Let's get back to Mercury, because Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini. And the fact that we get Mars and Jupiter meeting in Gemini, Mercury's retrograde, well, you can see here, as much as we might be thinking we're perceiving things a certain way, processing things, communicating things, the way that we intend to and the way that it's received may not necessarily be congruent with each other. In fact, Mercury retrograde in and of itself means that misunderstandings tend to be that much more likely. And that includes the misunderstandings we have within ourselves, of how it is we're seeing ourselves or other people, or even interpreting situations that matter to us. And it is in the sign of Virgo that Mercury retrograde invites us to have another look, to get more deeply honest about what the evidence is showing us. There's this one cliche saying that I really love when I look at Mercury retrograde in Virgo, and actually any important Virgo placements. It reminds me of the phrase, the proof is in the pudding, right? So cliche, I know, but it is that phrase that can speak to needing to look at the difference between what the evidence is showing us, whether that's the evidence of what someone is actually saying, what someone is actually doing, what the outcomes of those actions actually are. Are they aware of the effect that actions are having? And you look at that in contrast with whatever the hope or wish or intention might be. Too many of us can sometimes focus on potential rather than reality. And so we have this amazing contrast of energy just in and of itself, looking at Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter, right? Jupiter is so expansive, so hopeful, that much more adrenaline and steroids to that expansion is happening, especially in terms of what we're listening to and what we're choosing to believe. But then also passions are running very high. And people and ourselves, we can find ourselves getting very riled up based on communication. Whether we're listening to it, hearing other people speak and interpreting it the way that we want, or whether it is the ways in which we are speaking to ourselves. It is synchronistic moments that are that much more amped up. They become that much more significant in the sign of Gemini. We focus on synchronistic moments. And yet, what connections are we making? Because that's ultimately what synchronicity is. It's connecting our inner world and our outer world, our external environment with whatever spiritual learning, psychological growth we might be undertaking at that moment, according to Carl Jung. Having said that, yes, we're going to have to be mindful because the way that we're seeing things, interpreting things, understanding things, that might not actually be how things are. And there are great ways to understand this, because it gives us a chance to know that we can be patient, that as much as we might be telling ourselves something is urgent or imperative or we must react, we can actually choose to take a breath. We can actually choose to pause for just a moment. But I don't think it's going to be that hard to pause. And that is because it isn't just about the fact that Mars is meeting Jupiter. Now that, as I said, is rare. Once every 2 years or so, that conjunction takes place. But what's different now is that Saturn is squaring that configuration. And even though Mars perfects the square on Friday of this week, and on Monday of next week, it is Jupiter that perfects that square, I would invite you to think of this more as a swath of time. And it's the square of Saturn that makes this time that much more special, because it means as much as there might be a part of us that wants to, again, I'm going to use another cliche here, fly off the handle, right? There might be a part of us that wants to do that. There's also a need to recognize that healthy restraint could actually be a really good thing, and in fact is recommended. And it's one thing to believe in potential and words, and that's so incredible to tell ourselves things that amp us up, that give us energy to keep moving forward. We all need that, especially at certain moments in life. But it's another thing to put action behind the thoughts, the words, and the intent. It is one thing to look at what you could manifest, and another thing to say, I'm going to do my part to the best of my ability to do my best to manifest, and then surrender the rest. But I do think that this represents a big turning point moment for a lot of us out there. You know, it's no accident that this configuration is considered by many astrologers, some of whom you've seen here on my channel, like Andy of Wise Ass Astrology, like my dear friend Michael Barwick, who I call my personal Jupiter. Both of them at the start of the year were saying it is this energy at this moment, Mars conjunct Jupiter squaring Saturn, that represents one of the most important moments of the year. Astrologically speaking, this is big and archetypal. The more rare an energy is, the more potential it has to have consequences that shape us, that stand out for a very long time to come, as is the case now. We get this incredible square of Saturn to Jupiter and Mars together. And there's this energy of wanting to go all in, but knowing it's not a good idea. Wanting to, I'm going to just say, tell somebody off, right? Wanting to say what you really think, mean what you really say. But then knowing that some sense of measured strategy, some sense of calculation actually could go a really long way. But there's another way this energy might be realized as well. As much as we could tap into this for the potential to be patient, which is always an important thing to understand. Some of us just might understand that a moment too late, maybe a second too late, or an hour or a day or a week too late, because it is after we have that burst, that moment, that contact, that expression, that we have to then deal with the consequences of it and evaluate whether or not it was worth it. And what did we sacrifice in order to have a given moment to say what it is that we really wanted to say? And was that expression coming from a more elevated part of ourselves, right? Just like every sign has a higher vibration and a lower vibration, so do we as human beings. We have higher ways of understanding how it is that we can be of use to ourselves and to others as we move through the world. And then we have ways that aren't necessarily rooted in conscious decision and a decision to operate from that more evolved sense of self. In fact, I want you to consider as well that Mars is representative of our survival instinct and early childhood. When you look at Mars in any given natal chart, what you're seeing is the types of emotions this person dwelled in, the energetic spaces this person had to navigate before they could even speak. And this forms the basis of instinct, particularly survival instinct. And now here comes Jupiter amplifying that very part of us that likely had no control over that very early environment we experienced. And where it is that those early environments might have been chaotic, as they are for some people, well, having Jupiter come along and meet Mars, well, it's going to magnify that tendency to move towards chaos or to find strange comfort in it. And yet, because Saturn is square, it's like we know better. We're being invited to cultivate something more. We're being invited to look at whether or not our automatic reactions are still working for us or not. Saturn is continuing to move through the sign of Pisces. In fact, it was last year in March that we started to experience this transit of Saturn in Pisces. And next year, we're going to get a little bit of dip in and out. But once we get to 2026, this energy will move on, not to return for well over 2 decades. And the larger trend of understanding with Saturn in Pisces is that with Saturn in the part of the sky that has to do with the unconscious, it has to do with what's happening on energetic levels, but also mysterious levels. And it also has to do with powerless and surrender and acceptance. With Saturn here and the planet that has to do with taking responsibility for your actions, evaluating things as they honestly are and working within it. Saturn has to do with anything worth having is worth working for. You can have anything you're willing to work for. But even that, and especially with Saturn in the sign of Pisces, is only going to get you so far. And so consider that it is Saturn in Pisces that is squaring this configuration. And I feel like there's going to be a measure here of what's known as the Freudian slip. And so it was Sigmund Freud who said that everything we say, it has some root in some part of our psyche. The Freudian slip involves a phenomenon of saying something and then realizing after the fact that what was said could actually be interpreted in different ways and was actually incredibly revealing about a person, whether or not, and especially when not, intended to be such. People will often reveal themselves in all kinds of ways. But the thing is, are we willing to and able to observe ourselves and our own Freudian slips? And even though we might judge ourselves for what was said and what we think about it, and yeah, it's possible sometimes that we just say the wrong thing. It happens. But if we focus too much on the what was said rather than the wisdom behind it, we end up delaying a real opportunity we have here for self-knowledge, which ultimately is about integrating the shadow and the conscious mind, also known as the process of individuation, according to Carl Jung. It's about taking what previously was unconscious and bringing it up so that you can see it and decide whether or not it's working for you. Is it an honest representation of not only who you are, but whom it is that you desire to be? Mercury retrograde can be a time that feels kind of wonky, and we are going to end this week on a particularly wonky kind of note, where just when we think we know, we realize we really don't, and things can feel like they accelerate on some sort of a weird roller coaster ride of sorts that's going to be part of the energy we carry into next week. And so what happens at the very end of this week or beginning of next week, depending on where you are on the planet, that is when we are going to have Mercury square Uranus. Now, this is a key characteristic of this larger Mercury retrograde season. July 21st, shortly after Mercury went into shadow, was the first exact square that these two planets had. And it will be the 7th of September that we will have the final square between Mercury square Uranus. So whatever things look like now already is probably not how they actually are. And yet there could be a moment that feels rather jarring or unexpected. But whatever's taking place now in some way may connect to what was taking place way back around the 21st of July, and will likely be seen differently once it is that we navigate forward towards the 7th of September. Also keep in mind, as that square perfects, we are going to be in the dark of the moon, and it is going to be on Monday of next week. We've got an especially erratic new moon in the sign of Aquarius, and I'll be here to talk about it every step of the way. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It is a valuable and meaningful astrological moment. If I had to choose, I would say, look, Mars conjunct Jupiter, because Mars has that potential to magnify Jupiterian energy. And who doesn't love Jupiterian energy? I don't know too many people who don't, because it is a party. However, we've got enough Saturn in there as well to ensure that we're asking ourselves the right questions, and we are intent on doing the work of raising the vibration rather than just being on automatic. Because when it is that we're on automatic, we're not necessarily approaching life with the intention of cultivating greater love and greater wisdom. But we have that invitation to do just that work now. I'm especially encouraged by the fact that on Thursday, we are also going to have Chiron trine the sun. I don't normally focus too much on aspects of Chiron, but I have to say I have had a big lesson lately with Chiron stationed on my Chiron in my chart. Wow, it has been and continues to be quite the Chiron return for me. Now, having said that, I am really looking forward to this trine. I'm feeling it already, because this is a reminder of the active cultivation of love and wisdom and how that actually blesses us. It blesses our lives with the effort being rewarded. Wisdom, for its own sake, is worth the journey it takes to earn it. And sometimes we go through moments like this where it feels like we want to, hurry up and wait. It feels like we want to be all systems go, but we feel a sense of restraint or being held back. And maybe somebody in our lives is exemplifying the force that's holding us back. Maybe it's larger forces, right, that we sometimes can or can't point to or put our finger on. But it is this trine happening of Chiron and the sun that's reminding us that wisdom is something that we can earn. And wisdom is something that actually makes life better, not just because it helps us to consciously choose whom it is that we desire to be, but it helps us to be better versions of ourselves, more healed versions of ourselves, not just walking around and these expressions of all the wounds and all the traumas that were passed down to us from people who experienced their own wounds and their own traumas and didn't know any better, but rather we've chosen love. Love is something that, yes, can be expressed romantically. That's always fun. But it's also something that can be experienced universally, but personally as well. And the fact that we've got Chiron in Aries and the Sun in Leo trine, these are both fire energies, but especially they're very individual energies. Aries is an energy that exemplifies the self, like who you are, what you really want. It is an archetype of the first breath. In Leo, as I started out this video by saying, it's about knowing that there is something within you that is worthy. Full stop. Whether it's worthy to shine, worthy to be seen, worthy to respect, worthy to honor, whatever that is for you. Sometimes self-love requires work, and it requires coming up to forces that feel really big. And it requires being willing to confront wounds that we'd rather not look at. If Chiron is anything, Chiron is compassion. It was Chiron who, through the compassion of the gods, in particular Jupiter, who decided to translate Chiron's pain and turn him into an immortal, brilliant constellation, thereby making him into something awe-inspiring, something beautiful, and something everlasting. That ability that Jupiter had to take Chiron out of his pain and turn him into something magnificent could only come after a period of time of cultivating wisdom. Those are the fruits of cultivation, the fruits of the work that we do to move towards greater love and greater wisdom, regardless of the circumstance. Well, we're about to get a crash course. Some of us are more than others in our lives right about now, but thankfully with this beautiful trine, those efforts will be rewarded. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, thumbs up. All of it means so much. It really helps the video get seen by more people, become available to more people. And I appreciate that love, that affirmation so very much. And I love reading your comments. To prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week for as low as just $3 a month. But choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University has some incredible programs coming up. This September just launched. And as we begin this week, you literally have just 3 weeks left to choose your tuition rate, as low as just $5 a class, an unheard of rate to learn from this caliber of astrologer only at Synchronicity University. I'm so excited to present these people to you. And I'm going to start with the one and only Cameron Allen, world-renowned holistic health astrologer. Cameron Allen, we are so fortunate to have him back at Synchronicity University. And he's going to be teaching on holistic health planetary remedies. And so this is a wonderful way to take the knowledge he's already been teaching at Synchronicity University and step it up that much more, and to actively work with your chart. I mean, with astrology, the whole point is self-empowerment, right? Knowledge is power, yes, but also there are real ways, well-rooted in millennia of tradition, in which we're able to look at what's happening in the chart, what's happening planetarily, and figure out how to balance the energies. So what planets need, what remedies, that's what you're going to learn, and so much more with the one and only Cameron Allen. He is one of our most popular teachers. He's so brilliant. Personally, I know that I have been able to go to him when I've had challenges happen. I'll talk about that later. But I know I've been able to go to him, and he always gives incredible advice. And he understands, because he has a degree in sports physiology or something along those lines. Yeah, he understands what's happening on so many different levels, the spiritual, the astrological, but his advice is practical as well in helping you to understand what you can do, whether it's movement exercises, whether it's different herbs you can take, stones you can wear, and so much more. This is a class that's going to be absolutely worth taking for anybody who wants to move towards a greater sense of well-being and work with their chart and transits and what's happening in order to help yourself and empower yourself on a health level. Cameron has years of experience in this field. You will be able to see that when you go on to Synchronicity University. The previous classes he's taught with us are all oriented around medical astrology and holistic health astrology. And if you missed any of those programs, you can get them as an add-on for that same rate. And thank you to him for allowing us to do that for as low as just $5 a class to get the downloads of his previous classes. So check out Cameron's class, learn more, sign up now. Links are in the description below at synchronicityuniversity.com. Synchronicity University presents me. Yes, I am back. We are doing it, and I will be presenting a brand new class this September called Many Happy Returns. This is looking at planetary return charts, solar return charts, lunar return charts, Mars, Venus, and we're going to also look at Jupiter and Saturn as well. Now, with this class, the idea actually came from a student reaching out and saying, hey, I want to be able to create my own personal horoscopes, particularly over the course of a month, to understand what's going to be going on. And according to the one and only Michael Luton, return charts are the most powerful predictive technique we have. If you want to know what's going to happen, look at the planetary return charts and how aspects are playing out to those charts. This is according to him. And we recently did a live Q&A online to follow up with the course that he had relaunched, right, reissued back in the spring. And it was over the course of that Q&A session we had live that he mentioned how important return charts actually are. I've been so grateful for the students at Synchronicity University, especially with me over the last few weeks as I slowly started to step back into work. I was really only able to work at first by audio, and so I was recording the classes in advance. I don't know if I'm going to do that still or not, but I do know that you will get the classes every week. And I do know, just like with the people who signed up for the class that I'm currently teaching now called Money, Power, Respect, there is going to be a live Q&A coming up really soon. So whether it is in person, which I know we love the community that we create together and co-create this learning together, whether it is live classes being taught or whether it is that you're getting the recordings and then we will have the Q&A, in one way or another, I will always show up for you. You always show up for me, and I will always show up for you. That is my promise to you. That is how much it means to me to have your trust. And yes, I'm back teaching. I hope that you'll check that out. Some of my previous recent courses are available for that same as low as just $5 a class rate. So you can stock up on packages that maybe you missed as of recently and join us, right? Join us. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. You're going to learn a whole lot. We're going to focus in on helping you to understand how powerful return charts are, especially using them as a tool for prediction to create your own personal year ahead with the solar return, month ahead with the lunar return, love ahead, passion ahead with Venus and Mars respectively, and of course, Jupiter and Saturn returns. These are big life-changing moments that happen during those returns. We're going to be looking at all of that over the course of a 5-week course. You can learn a whole lot more and sign up now as low as just $5 a class at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Synchronicity University has an absolutely incredible September speaker series coming up with these incredible astrologers. I'm so excited to share them with you. Now, there is a focus with this series on home and the different ways you might understand that. That's going to be the exploration here, because home is a representation, an archetype for strong foundations. And that is what you're going to learn from these brilliant astrologers coming up this September for as low as just $5 a class for just another 3 weeks. That's it, 3 weeks to go to tap into the power of home and so much more for just $5 a class. So let me introduce you to some of them. And some of them, of course, you already know. You've seen them here on my channel. I want to reintroduce you to, celebrate with you, Jill of Nui Astrology. I love Jill's astrology so much. I'm so glad she's back at Synchronicity University. And you saw her recently on my channel as well. I hope you absolutely loved her presentation and her videos as she's done them. Jill will be teaching about life lessons from the fourth house and understanding the fourth house of the astrology chart. Lady Jasmine is somebody that I met not that long ago, well, 2 years ago now at the ESAR conference, and she made such an impression. She is so magical, really, and she understands ritual and magical practice so deeply. She's the perfect person to help us to understand magic and rituals that you can do for your home. This is going to be filled with practical tools and things you can actually do to magnify magic right where you are. Kai Taylor will be teaching on the water houses, helping you to understand water energy in your chart. And of course, astrology is rooted in the elements. We look at earth, water, fire, air, and water is a symbol of so much like intuition and psychic ability and emotion, and home, emotional comfort, emotional equilibrium is what we seek when we look at the water energy in our chart. And Kay is going to help us to understand that. It was at the same conference that I met Meghna Bhagat, and she is going to be teaching on being at home with your astrology chart. How do you make peace with all that stuff in your chart that you think, oh, I wish that wasn't there. I wish it wasn't. Like I quoted Jesse Innocent earlier, right? I said, Mars has got to go somewhere. Mars is there. Pluto is there. It's got to go somewhere as well. Well, however it is that you understand being at home with your chart, making peace with your chart, Meghna is going to help you with that. Melanie Rose will teach on comfort in the home, understanding lunations, and so much more. Melanie is amazing. Actually, early on, the moment I had to unexpectedly take not on camera, she actually reached out and she sent me this wonderful blessing, and it meant so much to me. And she really is somebody who brings that sense of wanting you to be at peace right where you are at home, and understand home as a metaphor, but a literal space as well, and so much more. You'll see she and all these other speakers, they have this very magical, insightful quality to them that I think you will love learning from. So you can learn a whole lot more about each of these speakers and about each of the classes, and sign up for as low as just $5 a class for just another 3 weeks only at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so grateful for it. Thank you to everybody who sent so much love over the course of the last few weeks. It was incredibly challenging. I don't have words for it. I think I'm going to find a way to express it in the weeks ahead, in the months ahead. And I hope that I can bring that much more wisdom. Hopefully I gained something through this time. It was very challenging. This is the hotel room I'm in, and I literally was not able to leave this hotel room for a period of time. And it was like going into an understanding of Plato's allegory of the cave. And I'm looking forward to weaving that into a horoscope very soon as well. So I won't dive into it too much right now, but just to say, everything seems different and everything feels different and looks different on the other side. And you know, we are so fortunate to have this experience of life. I feel so fortunate to have people who love me, who care for me, who checked in with me, and even, you know, people who could only call. But yes, it was this room that I had to not leave. I was on bed rest and it was tough. My students really helped me come out of it in a big way, because it gave me purpose to have to show up for the students at Kepler College. I love them so much and I'm so grateful for them. And once a year, every summer, I teach a business class at Kepler. And that's my commitment. I had to show up. And so the first couple of classes, I was like, okay, I can't have the camera on. And I can't make videos on YouTube lying down. And so I'm better. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so grateful to be here. And I know I'm going to talk a lot more about it in the weeks ahead. And so just right now in this moment, I'm just feeling gratitude. And so thank you. Thank you so, so much. And so, yeah, Rio de Janeiro, but not being able to go to the beach, not being able to go out. It sucked. It really sucked. But, you know, the things that you are willing to see, if you're willing to see, is kind of incredible. And I just kind of had no choice but to be still, really. And it was all very Chiron. You know, it was an injury and complications and, you know, the doctor finally saying, look, I need you to not move. I need you to be still. And I had no choice but to listen, and I had to do it. And I'm so, so, so grateful for the incredible people, medical professionals I was in touch with. And I'm just really grateful to be back here with you, honestly. So I was like getting very emotional before I started filming. And I said, okay, I'm not going to get emotional. I'm going to put it to the side. And even now, right now, I feel like I don't want to be in that space of sadness at all. I just want to be in a space of gratitude, and especially for you. Thank you to everybody. I know you gave a lot of love and support to the amazing astrologers who stepped in for me over the last few weeks. And I'm so grateful to each of them. And I'm grateful that so many of you sent messages, you sent comments and said lovely things, and the positive energy you sent, all of it, I saw or I received in one way or another. And all of it has meant so, so much to me. It was, you know, what really helped bring healing to that 10th house Chiron. But the Chiron return, man, that's no joke. I'll say, especially my Chiron with all it's doing in my chart. But it's okay. It's part of the human journey, right? It's part of life. These are the things that we go through. And like I said, I will always show up for you. I will always show up for you. I'm going to have these human moments where, yeah, I may need to step aside. I think the last time I really did take a week or two off was at the very beginning of 2022. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was really a time that shifted things for me so that my life launched in a whole other direction. And I'm feeling that now. Like, I feel like I know, like, I'm coming out of the cave and I'm in the sun for the first time. And, you know, like Plato talks about in his allegory of the cave, everything looks different. And it's not that everything is different, it's that I'm different and I'm still striving to make sense of it. But I hope it means that I have that much more to share with you guys for many, many, many years to come. And September 1st, it'll be 18 years as a full-time astrologer. And I'm so grateful for each of you who've walked this journey with me, whether this is the first time that you are getting to know me or whether you've been with me all this time or somewhere in between. Just thank you. Thank you for all that you bring and for seeing me as part of your sacred journey. It is such a blessing, and I never, ever take it for granted. And I feel so thankful. So thank you to each and every one of you. And I'll talk a lot more in the weeks ahead as well as we go along and as I continue to show up for you as you show up for me. So thank you for that. And thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.